realm of both information dispensation and activities. And I think that would answer a lot of questions, as well as the fact that all your rights and properties, etc., should be put into trust to put a fence between yourself and the members of the Roman Curia who have been falsely claiming our estates. And that would be very helpful along the way. And while that is taking place, the rest of the nations of the earth are ceasing to trade with the private Federal Reserve notes of the Roman Curia members and are ceasing and reducing heavily their buying and transferring into their reserve any U.S. Treasury bonds. And particularly those bonds have been set up since 1861-62 to back the U.S. corporation debt. And this is what they've been operating on. So if we focus ourselves in those areas and work hard to become more and more competent, things will start unraveling as they should and make the corruption of the occupying forces of the hybrid Europeans less effective in destroying and genociding our people, which are key to many of the arguments Sister Erta had been talking about. The battle is not up just because she's physically gone, for she is still with us in spirit.
Right. And I just want to say that to those in the Bay Islands, that I had the privilege of Sister Earthy and Sister Tia being here in my home for a month, and it was a beautiful time. And she painted, she cooked, and she did all kinds of wonderful things. And I will absolutely never ever forget her. So I want you to know she's a beautiful soul. And as Grand Sheik said, she remains with you now even more in spirit.
But the battle don't end. Now, many of you, brothers and sisters on the islands, and remember collectively the islands are Americana. So keep this in mind. We're arguing for our what? Lost estate. The more we study, the more competent we will become. And keep in mind, one of the major issues presented to us by our illustrious Prophet Noble Drew Ali is the restoration of our lost estate. I yield the floor.
Yeah, I just want to throw this up for a minute because they get a little ignorant with each other on this sometimes. Let me see. It's flipping so quick. So Boss RTC says, how do I get out of the mortgage trap?
Pretty soon, as I've said to you all earlier, and pay attention to what I'm about to say. The path is moved toward this. Within the next year and a half, that will not be a concern with you, for it will be eliminated. Remember what I just now said. And much of it has to do with the work that we've been doing over the years, even if we're not credited for that work.
Is it Abdul Bey TV? Is it true that there are Moors behind the European royals pulling strings?
Yes, there's dirt on both sides. Remember, the Prophet reminded you, he said, be careful, Moors. Some of your own brothers and sisters wearing turbans and fezzes will be trying to put you back into slavery. And this goes back to some of the things that you see taking place. You'll notice that in the divine warning by the Prophet for the nations, many of you who have read that great document, you'll see where the Prophet says in his call to the Moors, he talks about other people of other nations having to answer up to constitutional principles, and why not you? And he said, helped me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America. And you notice as long as we've been promoting that principle set forth by Prophet Noble Ali, you notice that some of our major critics have been Moors who claim to be Grand Sheiks, which includes Taharqa, and been telling people that we've been giving false information. However, things are unraveling for all of them now, and all of them, including trolls like himself, are being exposed for the criminal spirits whom they really were and are. Outside of that, you never see me talking about them. But because the trolls continue to jump and try to say that constitutional enforcement is a fraud, etc., they're being exposed now because all the platforms that they have depended on for their so-called economic security are collapsing. See how long they keep on talking trash.
Dominique Kelly says, talk about Kanye West saying love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in Atlanta last night on his listening, I guess, party.
I haven't heard that, but you know that Kanye West is a scholar. He's a PhD, and he, like others, are aware truth of the frauds that have been taking place here in North America. And of course, the spirit of truth has come to bear in bright light under Uranus and Saturn. And so it doesn't surprise me, and I'm glad to hear him say that. But that's also a signal to others coming from him, if you're wise enough to see what he's telling you.
Michael Manning says, are the 50 states really countries?
Yes, they all are. And all of them were not in agreement to be a part of that corporation that has fraudulently represented itself as a country via its ownership and its owners, private owners. And many of you in the last few years remember when we passed out the corporate papers of the last registration of, I think it's around 1925, with the three owners that put up that finance and made stock, etc. And that also went bankrupt in 2013. And again, as they kicked the can down the road, 2019, etc. And that's for those like Taharqa, who've been saying that I've been giving you all misinformation. That's documented proof that that's a private corporation, including those of you who have available to you the letter from Pope Francis, the motu proprio of 2013, as well as the letter civil orders directed to Barack H. Obama, which they admittedly by document admit that the United States is a corporation and not a country, and it is a part of the crown empire of the Pope of Rome, of the Vatican. And then once you see that, you'll start seeing why people like Taharqa and others like him are always in the background trying to undermine the liberation of our people when they're given intelligent information and factual research that doesn't fit the little box of the party line that they keep playing while pretending to love Prophet Noble Ali, while promoting injuries to our people and disrespecting women.
King Flick says the so-called conscious community is falling apart and exposing themselves right now.
It was never together. It was never together. The so-called conscious community, as I've been saying for years, has been thrown around falsely. Consciousness, look at it this way. How can people who still call human beings crayon be relegated as conscious? How can people who did all kind of scholarship tell you about gods and devils every 5 minutes don't know the difference between pedigree and nom de guerre brand systems? How can people who don't know their own history, don't know that the United States is a private corporation and is proven and documented, be called conscious, and they always got something to argue about the political forum? How can people who keep talking, calling fiat, private commercial paper, currency, and credit money when the Constitution, based on fatwa or ancient law, says absolutely that no debt can be paid or satisfied without gold or silver coin, which is the money, and you call them conscious? The division and the schism that you see is logical because you have a bunch of people talking trash that don't do any research and claim scholarship and can't damn read and are busy trolling people who actually do the work and do research.
Claudio Rogers asked, how do I get out of census?
Census is for the private corporation for stock. It's very simple. When you nationalize and you comprehend what it really is, you're never in it except if you consent to it. Are you stock to be traded on the stock market off Water Street 55? Or are you not? So if somebody say to you, are you stock for them? You have the option of agreeing or consenting, or you don't consent. If somebody give you a poison pill, they say, they're going to make me take a poison pill. Do they make you take it? Do they ask you to take it and you take it willingly or not? If we stop consenting to fraud, fraud can't live.
Quantum L says, if reserving your rights when in the hospital is a matter of commerce, and thus do you need to list UCC for reserving your rights? Just wondering.
Remember that UCCs is a platform for commercial trade. A birthright and an unalienable right is not exercised on a commercial platform. It is declared. The other deal is the hospital systems is a pathological system connected to the military complex and does nothing to cure people, but is actually in place for pathology only, creating sicknesses and treating sicknesses and curing nothing. We have to get to the point of not dealing with them.
So, repair the breach.
Furthermore, excuse me, I apologize. Furthermore, that platform will be modified and neutralized for the most part before this year is out. Take my word on that one too.
So Repair the Breach says, what do you suggest we do with the fiat money we do have since these banks are closing?
Fiat and money don't go together. Number one, even though the bank operators of the Roman Curia will be stealing most of your accounts, which are not your accounts, they will be stealing your accounts. Understand, much of your suffering will be for your learning. You will be restored, and everything that they stole from you, they're going to be forced to give back to you, and that won't be willing on their part. However, that is collectively embodied in part and much of what we're talking about tonight. Silver coin and gold coin is money. Based on cosmology, the real culture of Midgard, i.e. based on the sun, the moon, and stars, they shall be signs for you. The alchemical metal for the sun is gold. The alchemical metal for the moon is silver. The alchemical metal for Venus, i.e. is copper. And essentially, they have been established by the supreme law of the land being the money, and nothing else is money. Stop calling fiat money. They do not go in the same sentence. That's just like saying my wife is half pregnant. She's either pregnant or she's not. Now, the silver, say maybe last year, this silver coin ounce may cost you maybe around 23 notes.
Yep, it did.
Right now, it's probably around in the area of 35. Pretty soon, it's getting ready to jump up, and it's going to be out of your reach. Take that fiat, because it's not currency and it's not money, nor is credit money, and get as much as you can while you can, so that in an emergency, you can survive and your family members can survive the transition that is in process as we speak. Because the different platforms that the people have trusted have failed the people because they were never honorable. However, even though it has taken time for our people to act on so-called consciousness, the rest of the civilized world have stopped buying U.S. Treasury bonds, which I've been telling you all for the last 7 years, and that you were going to have a feedback loop. This is why you have a supply chain constriction and constipation in all material goods. And they're getting ready to attack your food again, our food. Because remember, we're all suffering from this. So it's in all of our interest to start acting before we get kicked in the ass, which we're happening now. Because everybody's losing weight, but we're not going to Jenny Craig, is that they're kicking our keisters. And everything is half-assed now. It's artificial weight loss. They're taking all your stuff. We've been telling you, and we've been telling you, and we've been telling you. Hopefully, some of you listen.
So here's the next question. Let me say. Also. High quality records or quality high records, please rephrase your question. Not being ignored, didn't see it. If you didn't hear my comment earlier, the questions move really fast and they disappear off the screen. So if it's important that it's read, please repost. And a lot of questions haven't been read. So let me get back here.
And we do apologize. We're trying to address most of your inquiries as we can, but it's so many people on the chat, and they're throwing stuff up fast.
And remember, I have to distinguish, though, Grand Sheik, between the ones that are talking to each other and the ones that are, I
already know that
asking you a question.
But still, they're using that platform.
Right.
And the deal of it is, for those of you who are on the platform, keep in mind that we get calls from around the world, not just at North America. So we get calls and correspondence from other nation states too. So in reality, as Dr. G is monitoring the computer, it's not like rolling down where she can have a chance. It's like a ticker tape.
And then you can't go back up.
You can't. Yes, and it's moving. You can't go back up.
You can't go back up.
So a lot of times when we're talking, this is why a lot of times we will talk about certain things in general, or we will address principles so that the people can look at principle concepts and then do cross-reference and research, and we'll give them reference points where they can go research these things, whether it's political, so-called religious, economic, or etymological, so they can research for themselves and answer most of the questions themselves. Because remember, we do not promote followers. We promote liberation of humanity. That we all study together, get information, share information, and start liberating ourselves. Because one thing is for sure, absolutely for sure, and absolutely clear, and should be clear to all of us by now, and that is the politicians and the priesthood. Neither of them are qualified to lead the people anymore, or to continue to take the people's finances, or to guide them anywhere. So it's incumbent upon you all to start taking responsibility, to start studying, and start dumping all these fake leader guys. And keep in mind, all these titles that we may carry mean absolutely nothing. They're just like a piece of dirty t-shirts. Take that stuff off, throw it on the washer.
Yeah, I can't slow down the chat. I'm not on the platform of YouTube. I'm actually in StreamYard. It doesn't have that feature. The person who asked that can't slow it down in StreamYard. Okay. Tommy Sanders says, Grand Sheik Taj Tarik Bey, do you know about the Nuremberg Code /Act?
Yeah, and guess what? It's being applied now to a lot of the owners of the United States Corporation Company who has been committing a fraud against humanity. And many of them, although it's not necessarily public, are being charged with the war crimes accordingly.
So what exactly is it? War crimes?
Yeah, you ever heard of Nuremberg trials?
Kind of.
You ever
yes.
heard of Guantanamo, Cuba,
Yeah.
Isabella? Some of the stuff is going on now. It's just not all public. However, we collectively, the nationals and some of the citizens, are charged with taking responsibility to organize and to show ourselves approved and become more competent in civilization principles, i.e. civics, so that we can start solving a lot of our own problems. And above all, start putting our stuff in trust to protect our property from criminal operators and imposters who have been acting as government and imposturing as officials when there are no official offices operating, for the offices are defunct. That's a fact. And that's been a fact for quite a while. It's not an opinion, that's a fact. And I know it's rough for all of us. However, we're going to take the bull by the horn and ride it.
Felix Amorbe says, can we enforce the Constitution in Guatemala with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship?
The principles are universal. That's what, see, the deal of it is you may not look at the instrumentality as an instrument, but the principles that undergird them are universal, because the problems that have befallen humanity are universal in their character. And most of the injury has been initiated by the hybrid Europeans operating from North America, from Fleet Street, England, and from the Vatican, and are being dealt with accordingly. Become cognizant of it so you can better address your problems in your local. And keep in mind, much of the remedy and cure for all of us will be essentially